You did mention the defense, so I did want to talk a little bit about the guy in charge of the defense, which is Demeco Ryans, right? Um, Early on, not a lot of people was as high on Demeco as I know I was. I knew him as a not knew him, but I followed him even as a player. He was, the mic'd up linebacker, middle linebacker for some great defenses in Houston and the Eagles. And I just knew that the type of cerebral player he was as the mic'd up, middle linebacker, that was going to go really, really well for him when he gets into, a defensive coordinator position. And I think the week 3 game against Green Bay was one of his worst. I remember saying this was the worst game because his adjustments weren't very good. He never could figure out really how to slow down that defense. And you go full circle to, this last week's game. After that first drive, he made some adjustments really, really quick, and they didn't score after that as far as on the offensive side. So talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on Demeco Ryans as the defensive coordinator, what you saw as his evolution, and just, what you think of him overall.
Yeah, I remember. So during the offseason, Chewy had brought up a shout out to Chewy, by the way. He had brought up a stat talking about how no defensive coordinator in their first year had got a defense ranked over like 15th overall, something like that, pretty low. And I remember you and him had a back and forth, and you said, "Hey, I'm confident this can be a top 7 defense."
Mm-hmm.
And you stuck by that. So kudos to you for that. I was kind of on the fence. I didn't know what to expect. I knew that there would be change. But one thing I do remember saying is that I thought this team would be more versatile defensively. I expected a lot of cover one, a lot of man press. Then Verrett went down, and I think that really changed a lot of what Demeco was doing, and it took him a while to get his footing. But once he got it, if I'm comparing Demeco Ryans to Robert Saleh in 2019, I'm taking Demeco Ryans. Now, I think Saleh did a better job in 2020. I think he was a lot more versatile with his coverages, his schemes, the way he mixed things up. I think Sherman really did hold him back a little bit. But I think the way that Demeco game plans, specific for each game, each opponent, he's incredible. And what you saw, by the way, on this last weekend is not out of the ordinary. Teams usually that first drive, they move the ball a bit against San Francisco.
Right.
But once he fills it out, it's like a championship fight. You go in there, the first round, you don't really throw a lot of punches. You take a few jabs, you just see the speed of your opponent. You feint a couple times, you see what the movement looks like. That's what he's doing. And he's picking up on reads, and he says, all right, these next 11 rounds are mine. I know exactly what to expect from you. I know how quick you are. I know what your weaknesses are. I know how you're reacting to my feints. I'm going to knock you out. And he's done it week in and week out. It's extremely impressive. I absolutely love what Demeco Ryans is doing. And somebody in the chat, I think it was Korean 49ers, says, I hope that he gets more interviews, or he should get more interviews. Selfishly, I don't want that to happen. I would love to keep him for another year, but he absolutely does deserve it. If Minnesota doesn't hire him, they are absolutely off their rocker.
Yeah. I mean, nobody knows what Green Bay is going to be next year, but what he did to that Green Bay team, which it's not going to be better than whatever they do this year or this upcoming year, isn't going to be better than that year just because of the cap situation they have. The way that he was able to shut down Aaron Rodgers at home in Lambeau weather, which Aaron Rodgers, a couple years ago was talking about if we had San Francisco in our home field, it'd be much different, which it wasn't. That I think that somebody said, I forget who it was just send the Minnesota or just send the game tape of this all 22. Don't even show up to the interview. They should hire you just off of that, right?
Man.
I mean, the dream. Oh my God, they're back. The legendary duo is back. Jesse and Sunil. No more UFC shows together. Yeah, man. We had to kind of just go to where the views are, and the views are with the 49ers. But Jesse and I are talking UFC all the time. It's still there. Maybe we'll bring it back. Who knows?
Yes,
Let's see. Low that truth 05. Yo, what's going on, Jesse and Sunil? Let's get that dub on Sunday. Absolutely, my dude.
yeah.
Let's see. James got a comment about a topic we're talking about later, so I'm gonna save that. Cool. So just some other things on D'Amico, right? So does he look like a rookie head defensive coordinator to you?
No, no.
No,
This
right?
man, this man right now, I think he's done a just top to bottom. He's done a better job than Shanahan calling the offense. Now, to be fair, Shanahan is the head coach, right? He has a lot more on his plate than just calling the offense. But if I'm just looking at pure consistency from a play calling perspective and who's done a better job with their unit, the defense has done the better job. And I feel like the defense has dealt with more adversity than the offense has. So yeah, I think he's doing a hell of a job. He certainly doesn't look like a rookie. I remember after they gave up those points against Detroit at the end, I was in a space and I said, I expect D'Amico to have some ups and downs. I think he's going to adjust very well as the season progresses, but early on we may see some growing pains. And he came out against the Eagles the very next week and put it on them as far as a defensive show. 11 points he held the Eagles to, 11 points on the road. And then Green Bay happened. And after that, it was just like, okay, he had the Arizona weird thing that happened. But if you look at the final, 9 weeks of the regular season and 2 weeks into the playoffs, completely different team defensively. They couldn't stop the run early on. Now nobody can run on them. One team has put up more than 90 yards of total rushing offense on this team. One team in the last 11 games, and now they're forcing turnovers like crazy. They couldn't force a turnover to save their lives early in the season. Green Bay, by the way, 9 games this year with 0 turnovers. The fact that they were able to get a turnover in that game, absolutely insane. I feel like they can force a turnover every game now, to where early in the season that was not the case. And I think a lot of the times they will force multiple turnovers, and that's a huge advantage for the 49ers.
And Jesse, talk to me a little bit about what you saw change, because this team was 3-5, and then they go on the run that we're seeing right now. What is that difference with the defense? What did Demeco Ryan change? Was it something scheme wise? Was it just a situation of getting healthy at the right time, or is there something X and O you're seeing that he's doing that is causing these turnovers, causing the defensive line to get in the backfield a little bit more, causing these corners that has kind of been like a mismatch to say the least, to not be the weakness that everybody thought that they were going to be? What are you seeing that's causing this type of success for this defense?
Yeah, well, I think number one is Eric Armstead moving to the inside. That was a clutch move. Eric Armstead on the inside of that defensive line is a completely different monster. I mean, he is unstoppable at this point. So I think that's number one. I think that was a huge move. Now, that was because of injury to Kinlaw, but either way, it happened. And I think that was a huge move. I also think that there was a ton of penalties on that secondary, but they had the 1 week where they had worked on getting their eyes flipped around, getting their hips flipped around all week long in practice. That right there, that's coaching. Like, that is coaching, because they had struggled for multiple weeks getting those big penalties that were game changers. And for a full week, they focused on the basics. You don't really see that at the NFL level. Like, you see implementation of game plans, you see individual drills, but to pull a whole unit aside and say, listen, we got a serious issue here. We're going back to the freaking basics. I thought that was huge. That's what a leader does. That's what a coach does. And then once he got it figured out and he was able to get Ambry Thomas in there and start mixing up a lot more man press with the cover 2, cover 4. Also, the other thing that I'm seeing a lot of, those rotations post snap, those safeties are moving all over the place. One thing that I had an issue with Saleh, especially in 2019 and previous, very, very predictable. Me with a novice eye, 95% of the time, if you show me what I'm seeing pre-snap, I could tell you what defense they're in. That shouldn't happen. Not from a guy like myself that is no film guru by any means. I know what I'm looking at, but not to that level. A lot of times I'll look at a defense and get confused based off of what I'm seeing pre-snap and post-snap, and that's the way it should be to a novice. When I look at D'Amico's defense, I'll watch the film and I'm like, okay, I think they're in cover 3 here. Oh, nope. Looks like post snap they rolled double safety, they're in cover 4, or nope, they're in 2-man. Like, it changes so much pre and post snap, and that's something that he has used to his advantage, and it looks beautiful on film when you watch it.
Never cover 6 though, because that doesn't
Never.
exist.
Well, cover 6 doesn't exist, Tennille. I don't know if you know, but Twitter full of smart people. Cover 6 isn't a real coverage. It's just it's kind of like a version of the cover 3, if you will. You're just rolling the corners differently.
Absolutely, that's what I learned from Twitter as well. But yeah, I mean, the I think one thing is I think one of the biggest issues early on was he didn't know who his personnel was, to be honest, right? And
Yeah.
so I think once they kind of shut down Kinlaw, once they shut down D Ford, and he started realizing, okay, these are the guys that I have. And then when he realized, okay, these are the corners that I have, I saw a lot more of a structure, and I think he could understand what I can do now to maximize these players. And to me, that's his biggest strength. When I did have that debate with Chewy, shout out to Chewy, like you said, I knew that his mentality was going to be aggressive, but it's hard to be aggressive if you don't know who you're shooting with. You know what I mean? Like when you don't know what weapons you're going to have on a week-to-week basis. And I think when he finally realized, okay, this is the defensive lineman rotation that I have. These are the corners that I have. I obviously have the 2 studs at safety that I could utilize. Once he was secure in that, I think that's when you've seen the 49ers be the defense that he talked about in the offseason. He said, we're going to be a defense that gets out behind, wins in the backfield. And we're seeing this team have way more pressures, a lot more sacks, a lot more tackles for loss than previous seasons. This is going to be a team that gets turnovers. We heard, in the interview with Grant, Jimmy Ward was talking about his main focus was to get more turnovers. And this team, especially the second half of the season, you're seeing interceptions, fumbles, all those kinds of things that we haven't seen in previous years as well. And then just overall the aggressiveness, right? He's not afraid to bring pressure. He's not afraid to show different looks. He's not afraid to take risks here and there, right? It's not just this let's just not bend, not break type of mentality that Salah used to have, which bode well, obviously, but it wasn't that aggressive, like I'm gonna hit you in the mouth and we're gonna win every single down. And we're seeing week after week these high-powered offenses not look so high-powered when they face Demeco Ryans' defense. So I think that's a testament to his not only his X's and O's and his schemes, but also his mentality. It's different from Salah, which is why I was always very high on him. And I knew that this defense had the capability of being as good as we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking a lot of comparisons with him and Salah. Salah was a very good defensive coordinator. So the fact that we're even putting him in year 1 at that level or possibly higher than what Salah was in year 3, that's insane. Absolutely insane. And it's just a testament to how good Demeco Ryans truly is.
And before we get off this topic, is Demeco's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers next season?
I'm going to lean yes, because the NFL, they can't figure out hiring black coaches for whatever reason.
Right.
And it sucks. But in this scenario, it works out in the 49ers' favor. So, yeah, I'm going to say he is the defensive coordinator for one more year, but he's not making it past next year. There's no way.
Kim says, Sunil, Jesse, Chicago could use Demeco Ryans as a coach too. Green Bay will not be as strong as a season. Chicago needs a coach that can take it to Green Bay. I think that's a great role for him. I mean, he could fit in pretty much with a lot of different teams. I'm more leaning towards he is going to get a head coaching job. I think that you're seeing a lot of teams not interviewing a lot of people because they have to pretty much wait till he's done with his, with these, hopefully next 2 games. But I just think he's like the hot name right now. And you see even like these coaches that are coming from Kyle Shanahan's now tree. Robert Saleh went into the Jets, and even though they only got 4 wins, that was 2 wins more than what the team did before Saleh was there, right? And that was with rebuilding and starting from scratch. I think this team kind of gets picked. I think Mike McDaniel's probably going to go somewhere. Demeco probably going to go somewhere, but who knows? Hopefully not, but he's definitely deserving, I think. Let's just put it that way.
Well, there's a lot of open positions. So I
Right.
think that there is a strong possibility because at some point, like it's supply and demand, right? It's the same thing that we talk about with Jimmy G. You look at Jimmy G last offseason, it makes sense why he didn't get traded, why there was not really any interest from these other teams. There just wasn't a lot of landing spots. But you look this offseason, you're going, now I could see him getting traded and getting something decent in return because there's so many open quarterback spots. Same thing with the NFL. There's a lot of coaching spots. And then today, Peyton retired. The Saints now need a head coach. So yeah, there's plenty of openings. If he doesn't get one this year, like I said, it would look stupid. It would be crazy. But he's gonna get one in the next 2 seasons. If not this offseason, for sure the next.
I think if he doesn't get a coach, if he's not a head coach this year, it's because he chose not to be, not because he didn't have the opportunity. He might want to
No,
wait,
that's a good
right?
point. No,
Because
that's a good point.
a lot of maybe either he may not feel ready because this is his first role as like a defensive coordinator. The other thing is some of these coaching positions are in cap strap teams that are complete rebuilds. Does he want that pressure right away, or does he want to wait for maybe a more a situation that's better for him? So there's a lot of things that go into it.